If you are wondering whether or not to pursue that new thing in your business, a new marketing channel, a new brand that you're going to promote, a new business even, this episode is for you. Because yes, after saying no almost 100 times, I am starting a podcast. So today, I'm just going to be really transparent with you about why it's taken me so long to launch something that I've wanted to do for so very long. But I'm really going to be diving into the strategy of when it is time to launch something new and when it's time to say no. So I really think that you're going to enjoy this episode. So why? Why am I starting a podcast? So first of all, I've been wanting to do this for years. I mean, if anybody knows me personally, you've probably heard me talk about it. I will say, oh, one day, I'm going to start a podcast because, and here's what I say every time, I just want to interview my friends doing cool things, which is so true. Over the past 6 years of business, I have met so many incredible people who inspire me, people who push me, people who challenge my way of thinking and who have really taught me so much about online business. And I just want you guys to meet these people too. I want you to be introduced to so many people who are really just living this thing, right? They're the people who have built their businesses, who have quit their jobs, who have led teams, who have switched from freelancers to employees, who have elevated themselves to CEO. All of those things, that's what I want to talk about. And for years, I wanted to do this podcast and I wanted to really talk about high level strategy, right? If any of you guys know me, you know my past, you know the business that I've raised to a multi-million-dollar business is training virtual assistants to start their own business from scratch. And I love that business, right? I'm obsessed with virtual assistants. I'm still obsessed with virtual assistants. I believe that it's the fastest way to make money online. And so I love telling people who have never heard about this online space about virtual assistants. But here's the thing. I was a virtual assistant back in 2015. Now I say mostly I'm a CEO. I'm a course creator, right? We're building a SaaS platform, right? I'm starting a second business now. And so what most of my day to day isn't finding that first client, isn't getting the guts to announce your business for the first time, all of those brand new business things. Now, I still talk about those, right? Over on my YouTube channel and our Facebook group for virtual assistants, our VA Savvies Facebook group. I talk about that all the time still because I still love it. But I knew when I launched a podcast that I wanted for the podcast to be high level strategy. I wanted to talk to other 6 and 7 figure business owners. I wanted to talk about the challenges, honestly, that I was facing and be really transparent about them and to bring you guys into the process of what it looks like to have a business of this size, right? I remember just looking at these business owners that had these 6 or 7 figure businesses and just being like, I wonder what happens behind the scenes. And that's what I want to show you. Like, I want to give you the thing that I never had. But here's the thing, because the type of podcast that I've wanted to create for so long has been this type of podcast, this isn't for beginners, right? This isn't for people just starting their business. I wasn't necessarily wanting to start a podcast for virtual assistants. We already do YouTube, we already do Facebook. And so my number one goal since 2016, right, has been to grow the Virtual Savvy to be a sustainable, growing company that could run, mostly on its own too. And that has been my number one goal for years. And so I knew starting this podcast would not serve my number one goal. And so, even though it has been so hard, and I say this because this isn't the only thing I've said no to, right? So it's not like, oh, it's been so hard to not start a podcast. It's been so hard to say no to so many things. Like, there's so many things that I continuously say no to because I know right now my number one goal is to do this. And so, because my goal has been so focused on growing the Virtual Savvy to the point it is now, which is why I believe we've had that focused growth, that sustainable, rapid growth, is because of that intense focus. But now it is like time to do the next phase. So we'll talk about that in a second. But I want you to ask yourself, even just as you're listening to this, what is my number one goal in business right now? And is what I'm doing truly serving that number one goal? Or am I like trying to do a secondary goal? Because if your focus is really split on two separate things, then like it's literally impossible to have two priorities. The word priority, like up until I was reading this from Greg McCown, I think that's his name, the author of Essentialism. I apologize, Greg. I don't know how to say your last name. I should have looked it up. But he talks about how the word priority up until like the last 400 years was a singular term, right? Like it only meant one thing. And now we talk about our priorities and we use it plural, but like the original intent of that word was never meant to be plural. And I think that we confuse that a lot. And so my number one goal when it came to business has just been to grow the virtual savvy. And so what is your number one goal? And are the actions that you're taking right now truly serving that number one goal? That's my first question for you. So that's been a little bit of my journey. And I just want you to know that if you are in that place where you're like, oh, I'm struggling because there's all these things I want to do, just hear me out. You are not alone. I actually believe that those of us who are seeing all the things, right? Like I have so many domains. You have no idea the amount of domains that I purchased because that's kind of like my fix. Whenever I have a new idea, I'm like, oh my goodness, this would be so amazing, this business, da 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 da. And I'll let myself sit on it for like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. I'll buy the domain for it. And then it like satisfies that piece of me. It's like, okay, the domain is secure. And now I can move on to the thing that's actually my number one focus. And I think that if you are that type of person, if you're the type of person that walks into a business and you're instantly like, here's 10 ways they could make this better, or you see an opportunity and you're like, oh my gosh, I could make a business that does XYZ. Some of us feel like that means that we are just this highly distracted person, which maybe it's a little true, but I see that is a sign that you are a true entrepreneur. So it means you're a visionary, right? If you are seeing opportunities at every corner, don't beat yourself up for that. Don't be like, oh man, I'm so bad at just sticking to one thing. Really recognize that that is a gift and that is a skill, that you truly are a visionary, and embrace it and hold it, right? And so that has been mine. It's the entrepreneur's curse, right? Wanting to do everything, the FOMO. It doesn't help that I'm an Enneagram 7. So all the time I'm like, ooh, what about this? What about this? And that fear of missing out is real. But I think one of the things that has helped me, and obviously getting to know yourself and what's going to help you is important. For me, I am also, so I'm an Enneagram 7. Strength Finders, one of my top strengths in my top 5 is strategy. And futuristic is my number 1. I think strategy is maybe number 2. And then positivity, woo, and communication. So, woo. So that strategy part, it's literally like this war inside of me of like Enneagram 7. Oh, it'd be so fun to do this, right? It'd be fun to start a TikTok channel. It'd be fun to go and start speaking everywhere. It'd be fun to do XYZ. But then the strategy side of me is always at war with it, saying, all right, but the best strategy is just to do one thing at a time. And so that back and forth is a struggle, but it's something that I've come to appreciate, right? Because when I listen to the strategy, it doesn't mean that I'm saying no to the fun. It's just that I'm saying later, in its time. And I know that I'm going to appreciate the thing that I'm doing so much more when I actually have the space to hold it, and when it has the capacity to really grow into what it can be, right? And so that's what this podcast has been for me, is this ability to, okay, I can actually hold this now. I have space for it in my calendar, right? My core business is systematized enough that I have white space. Like I have time to just sit in my office and record episodes like this by myself, right? And so if you are at a place where you are kind of deciding, man, should I do the next thing? Because I'm not telling you to never do anything new, right? Like that's not my intention in talking to you right now, is to say, oh, never try anything new, never experiment, never. No. What I'm saying is the things that you're doing, are they at 90% capacity, right? Are you doing them as well as they could be? Are they systematized at 90%, or are they at 90% of their full potential? And I would really, really challenge you to have them be that before you move on to the next thing, right? So that's where we're at. The Virtual Savvy is doing very well. So again, my original business, training VAs to start their own at-home VA business, training individuals to start their own at-home virtual assistant business. I should know what my own business is, right? Um, so that is doing well. We have 20 full-time team members. They know their roles. We have a senior leadership team. We are casting vision. We are growing. And it's doing that at a place where I could say, hey, I feel comfortable at this point that I have the space and the capacity to move on to do a second business and what's going to be in the main marketing channel for this second business. And for now, it's this podcast. So I'm so excited. We are, if you don't know already, we're building out, it's going to launch September 2022. We're building out a freelancer marketplace. So it's this next new, oh my goodness, like, do you have any idea how long I've wanted to launch a second business? And it's finally here. It's finally time. And so we're launching this freelancer marketplace. It's going to be a place where you can hire mission-minded freelancers. And so much of the inspiration for this new marketplace that we're building comes from the years and years and years that we have of hiring people and teaching freelancers how to become hireable, right? And so we kind of have both sides. But as we launch that marketplace, we feel really confident. Our email list over at the Virtual Savvy at this point is, I know it's over 150,000, right? So we're going to be able to fill the site with freelancers, I feel like, fairly confidently. Look out for it if you're listening to this and you're part of our TVS audience. But what we need now, we have a new number one goal, right? Again, is what you're doing serving your number one goal. Our number one goal is to build a list by September 2022. So we've got a few more months to finish this out, of 10,000 people who would be hiring on the site. So these are, six-figure business owners-ish, right? Whenever you're ready to make that first freelancer hire, usually comes when you're at 9 or 10K months yourself in business. And so that's really who we are targeting this podcast toward. Is, okay, like, what is a great way that we can attract people by giving value? Because that's what we're all about. We're value first mentality. And so what way can we give high level value that's going to attract an audience that would want to come and hire on our site? Let's do a podcast. And it finally made sense in the whole bigger puzzle. So I want to challenge you. The power of saying no. It's been transformative in my business. I'll do future episodes about this as well, because I can't drive it in enough. Again, the book Essentialism that I spoke of earlier, here's a quote from it. Let me read it word for word. Essentialism is not about how to get more things done. It's about how to get the right things done. It doesn't mean just doing less for the sake of less either. It's about making the wisest possible investment of your time and energy in order to operate at our highest point of contribution by doing only what is essential. So what is essential for you? I want you to ask yourself that question. What's your number one goal? And is what you're doing serving that number one goal? So after saying no 100 times, probably more than 100 times, after saying the time will come, the time will come, the time is finally here. Yes, I have a podcast. So I hope that you are here along on the journey with me. We're going to be peeling back the story of so many 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs. I'm going to be really asking a lot of just my friends in business to come and chat with me, people who I meet along the way, who inspire me, who motivate me, who challenge me. I want to introduce them to you. So we're going to talk about tackling the process of elevating yourself to CEO. And that's what this podcast is all about. So I'm so excited. I can't wait to hang out with you in future episodes, and I'll see you next time.